Hey, welcome back to Bobb-z Callahan's Word of Advice. And for this video, it is going to be the last of this mini-series of Word of Advice videos, which I've been focusing on for about the last week or so. And if you don't know by now, as I've mentioned, the last 4 videos, and this one will be included as well, have all focused on kind of simple topics, and the idea to talk about these topics came to me when I helped out with the Vacation Bible School at a church, and throughout every day, every single topic which I've talked about was discussed individually on every single day. And so far, I have made a word of advice video on the topics of being friendly, being giving, being bold, and the last one was being forgiving. And now we are at the last topic for this mini-series of Word of Advice videos, and this one is on the topic of being welcoming. And I know when I was talking with others about this topic at the Vacation Bible School I helped out with, and when I read about what being welcoming was, it mainly focused on being hospitable. Welcoming people into your home and just being a welcoming neighbor. But I also think that being welcoming can go just a little bit farther than that as well. Besides welcoming somebody into your home, you can also be welcoming just by your attitude and being a welcoming person to other people. And I think this is an important trait for all of us to consider developing over time, because if you think about it, we are going to run into people who are either from a different nation, or they have different beliefs than we have, or they're just different in some kind of way. And at times when we run into people who are different than us, there might be that one thing about that person which can be hard to accept about them. But if we try to welcome everybody and give everybody a chance, then I think we are doing a very, very great thing. Not everybody is going to have the same beliefs as we do, and not every person is going to come from the same nation that we come from. And there are bound to be differences in beliefs and backgrounds because of that. However, when we put on a welcoming attitude and we really mean it, and we try to welcome people who are just a little bit different than us, then I believe that is one of the greatest examples of love right there. All these topics have focused on being a loving neighbor. And not only can we be a loving neighbor by being friendly, being giving, being bold, and being forgiving, but we can also be a loving neighbor by being welcoming of others. Whether we are welcoming somebody into our home, or whether we are just simply giving somebody a chance, despite how different they are than us. We can be welcoming in that way, and that is another example of being a loving neighbor right there. So, there's really not much I have to say on this topic, but if you think about it, if you put on a welcoming attitude, and you try to remember that golden rule of treating others the way that you want to be treated, then I believe you will find a lot of success when you are developing new relationships with people, especially those relationships which involve people who are different than you in some kind of way. And yeah, I know that every single person is unique in their own way, but I'm talking about the people who may be extremely different than you are. This example just came to my mind. I'd like to share it before I go. I remember back in 4th grade, and it was a normal day, but all of a sudden my homeroom teacher said, "Hey, there is a new kid in the class next door, which is a class that my homeroom always went to. So try to be welcoming of him, and if he does something wrong, just, correct him and be welcoming of him. And I remember I just happened to be sitting right in front of this guy, and I said, "Hi, I want to be friends." And even though that this kid was very different from me, and even though he still is different than me, I still gave him a chance, and this guy gave me a chance to be friends. And for 10 years now, this guy that I am talking about is one of my top 3 best friends ever. Even though this guy has been different than me in several ways. I mean, if you think about our lifestyles and, when it comes to maybe some of our hobbies or how we think. Despite those differences, I decided to be welcoming of this guy, and this guy decided to be welcoming of me. And we've been able to accept each other, and we have become best friends. And I believe we always will be best friends. This can happen to you as well. And you never know when you're going to meet somebody who can be extremely different than you are. But at the same time, you never know if somebody like that could end up being someone who is very close to you over time. So always be ready for those chances when you could possibly meet somebody who is very different than you. And I believe that if you are welcoming of somebody, and really anybody, then you can either develop a good friendship or relationship with that person. You could potentially even develop a best friend relationship with that person. So always try to be welcoming of people, and always try to work with people even if they have their differences. I believe that this is one of the greatest examples of being a loving neighbor, and I believe that if we pass on God's love to others, no matter how different somebody else might be, then we could develop several great relationships in this life. And with that, this is all I have to talk about for this video and for this topic. I certainly hope what I've had to talk about on this topic will come in handy, and I also hope that this mini-series of Word of Advice videos has been fun and enjoyable. Back for another Word of Advice video very soon.